I'm Debbie Chu, and this is SEO in 2025.
Debbie, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
Good question. So for 2025, my number one tip is to tap into your first-party data and use it to your advantage. So you want to approach everything with a data-hungry mindset and ask yourself questions like, what types of data are available to me and how can I potentially use it for SEO? How can I also leverage data from other teams outside of SEO to kind of help with reaching goals for SEO and beyond?
Lovely. I love how you say data, but I'm afraid I'm going to say data. But everyone knows what we both mean, so that's okay. So what are the most common forms of first-party data?
Yeah, so there's kind of like three buckets we can put everything in. So the first one we might look at is going to be website data. So I kind of switch between data and data, but number one, website data would be like Google Analytics, for example, or Google Search Console. Another bucket would be product usage data. So what products resonate the most with certain segments or certain personas within your audience overall? Are there specific keywords that we notice that small businesses are really enjoy our product? Can we take some of our target keywords and add like a small business to it and try that and see if that drives people to come sign up for our product? And then the third sort of data bucket I would categorize into is, can we use data from other teams? Ideally, we want to avoid having SEO work in a silo. We can always tap on like the paid team, for example, the sales team, the support team, the content team. There's just a lot of ways that we can tap into other teams to get their data, their knowledge of our customers, and integrate that into the overall SEO strategy.
And is there any data bucket that tends to be the most important one for SEOs that SEOs should check out first?
I think we already go to Google Analytics, Google Search Console. I think the next one, if your team is doing paid ads, I think that's going to be the bucket to really work together and hone in on, because they're also like, if you're doing paid search ads, for example, they're also buying ads that show up on the Google search results page above the organic results, right? And so if we can get any data like, what are some of the campaigns that are doing well for them that we can also try to create SEO pages for, that's usually really helpful. Are there specific terms that we are bidding on that have done well and we don't have an SEO page? We should definitely do that. That way we can maybe like reduce spend on the paid side. So I would say of the other teams out there, that would be one major one to tap into. And I think another one to add in there would be the sales team. So they're the ones who directly talk to the customers or potential customers, so they know what are their pain points, and that leads into a lot of content that you can create on the SEO side.
Great, okay. And so SEOs need to do a better job then probably of reaching out within an organization, if they work within a large organization, or if they work for an agency, maybe encouraging data to come from other sources than direct contacts that they might actually have, and then ask questions. What sort of questions should, for instance, SEOs be asking sales teams or other teams that they don't necessarily go to first of all to get data?
Yeah, so for sales team, if they are like on calls with customers, hopefully like you can get some sort of transcript. Like they might already be using some sort of AI tool to transcribe what's going on as like kind of what are the notes from the call. And if you are able to kind of do some analysis on that data, it could be something as simple as like, maybe we can do some sort of like word cloud, for example. That would be like a very basic thing that we could do. And then we can see what are the things that are commonly said in those calls. Of course, you can be a bit more, go really into the weeds of the data and kind of pull out things like the pain points, like I mentioned, or are there specific competitors that our customers tend to talk about? Can we create pages, for example, my product versus X competitor, and then try to grab that traffic that way? Those are kind of like a few things I would think about. Think about like competitors and also anything that the competitors kind of stand out in, but our product also wins in, can we try to like tap into those areas as well?
How would you know if your customers are talking about certain competitors? I mean, would these be conversations that they're having with your sales team, or do you get this data from somewhere else?
So like I would assume that for some sales calls, the person might be like, "Oh yeah, I'm considering this other solution. Tell me why your product is better." So therefore, the competitor name might pop up in those conversations. If not, then I think you can always look at like number one, who are your SERP competitors as well as your product competitors, and then just do keyword research that way. So ideally, you might be able to get that through like sales calls. But if not, then you can always go the keyword research route.
Okay, great. I like your idea as well about creating a word cloud to actually try and get a visual representation of words that are repeated during sales conversations. Is there any particular software that you use and can recommend for doing something like that?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I think I don't have one off the top of my head right now. Previously, for something else, we've used like Qualtrics, which is like a survey platform. There are some free tools online if you just Google like a free cloud generator. So I would actually just recommend that.
Okay, so take the AI tool for analyzing the transcript to begin with, or just create the transcripts to begin with, and then put the transcripts into this online tool just to get the word cloud from there.
Yeah, so actually, I might add a step before the online tool is maybe you can use something like a ChatGPT and try to pull like what are the pain points that are being said in these transcript, or how are people describing our product and our features. I would pull that insight and then do the word cloud. That might be a little bit better to help you visualize as opposed to having too much content for the word cloud to create a nice cloud for.
And the latest version of ChatGPT is your preferred AI to analyze content.
Good question. That's a very, very, very tough question. I feel like you really have to test it out. I think I've seen Claude do really cool things, Gemini do really cool things, and I'm also trying to figure out like what is the best. So I can't recommend one at the moment. So I would say definitely try the same prompt with different models and then see which one comes back with the best output.
Yeah, that's a brilliant tip there. It has to be the same prompt. Otherwise, you're potentially getting different outputs from different prompts and you're not comparing
Right.
apples with apples, are you? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So definitely test it out. So going back to data, like test it out and figure out what is the best for you.
So what do you do if you don't have enough first-party data to work with? Because I heard you mentioned a survey tool there as well. Is that something that you actively recommend to actually get more first-party data?
Yes. So essentially there's kind of like two ways that you can really start getting data if you don't happen to have much data to work with. So one is to survey your customers. So you can use tools like Qualtrics, SurveyMonkey, bunch of other Typeform, bunch of other tools out there to do surveys. But essentially, what you're trying to understand is like, again, how are people thinking about our product and searching about our product? We can also use surveys to do really cool content things, such as like research reports. You can also survey, like, what are specific features about the product that resonates with customers. That information can help you maybe prioritize what you should work on. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of play around with the data. You just kind of think about like what would be helpful for me right now. Maybe like we talked about earlier, maybe we don't know who are our key competitors yet. Let's include that as a question in the survey, and then we can have like real data on like, okay, XYZ competitors are the top mentioned ones. Let's do comparison pages based on the top competitors based on the survey feedback that we've received. So survey is going to be one way to get data. The other way is to do some A/B testing. So there's a lot of different types of tests that you can do. You can do like really simple ones, like maybe like changing up your meta tags, for example. That might be something that you don't necessarily need a separate tool for, as long as you have like a page that has a decent amount of traffic that you can kind of test. And then there's like a B version that's similar that you can also test. So aside from like those things that you need before you can kind of do the A/B test. There's a lot of different types of A/B tests that you can do. Like, for example, going back with the paid team, for example, maybe they can help do some A/B testing on like potential headlines that they use for their search ads. And then we realize, okay, this version works the best, has the highest click-through rate. Maybe we can consider changing the title on some of our SEO pages to match that. So A/B testing and surveys.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, have you had some click-through rate wins by using what paid search have learned and changing some of your titles on organic to match that?
Yes. So previously, one thing that we tested is essentially if we were to have like include some sort of numbers in our titles, would that kind of help with click-through rates? And then we were able to find, okay, the data shows we've tested 2 versions of this paid search ad, and the one with like numbers is more attractive and people have been clicking on it. So we use that data and to inform, okay, let's change the titles for like this subgroup of pages. And then we saw a lift in click-through rates for those pages.
Lovely. And for surveys, do you have a favorite open-ended question that you like to incorporate in a survey?
Oh, that's difficult. Maybe it would be like off the top of my head, it would be something like, how would you describe our product, or like how would you search, what words would you search for if you didn't know our product existed?
That's brilliant. I love that. I knew you could handle that question.
Okay.
So yeah, I love that. And what about some creative ways to use first-party data in content?
Yes. So earlier we talked about the research reports. With the research reports, essentially the goal is to create interesting data. So maybe it could be through a survey, it could be through your product data. But essentially you want to figure out like what interesting data can I find about a specific topic. So you can think of like the state of XYZ. That's kind of like what I'm talking about. And that type of content can be beneficial to a bunch of other teams outside of SEO. For example, your PR team can pitch it to journalists. Your paid team can promote the report on like social media. For example, LinkedIn has been a great channel for that type of content. And then your sales team can use this content when they're talking to prospective customers, saying like our company found, X% of like, I don't have a good stat off the top of my head, but we found something interesting about this specific pain point that you have, and that might be a good conversation starter. So there's just this one piece of content that we pull a lot of first party data and we can use it in a bunch of different ways across many different channels. And in the end, it's not just beneficial for SEO, but it's also beneficial for the marketing team at large and the company. So that's kind of one way to think about how do we creatively use that first party data. Another way is if you are doing any programmatic SEO pages, you can try to include some like data that does not necessarily exist for any other like competitors, for example. I can give you a more concrete example. Previously at Dialpad, we did these area code pages. So essentially, if I was someone who was searching for like 415 area code, I might be either number one, it might be like an informational search where I'm just trying to figure out like where's 415 area code. The other intent would be someone who might be interested in purchasing a phone number with this area code. And so the idea was to target people who are doing the latter, because Dialpad is one of their products is a business phone system. The businesses might want to have a custom like phone number for a specific area, for example. And so instead of approaching this programmatic SEO topic as like, okay, let's just do all the pages, do all the area codes, and then just push it out there, we wanted to do a more curated approach. And so I decided like, why don't we tap the data team and ask, let's look at our product data, and of all the area codes out there in the United States, which ones are the most popular for our customers, and then prioritize based on that, right? So through that strategy, or like kind of differentiating ourselves through that approach, we're able to really focus on the area codes that we know our customers are currently using, and that means other businesses might also be interested in these like top 10, 20 area codes. And so we wanted to really target those and prioritize those pages, and then also create more custom content on those pages as opposed to all the other area code pages out there. So overall, like that became a really successful project. And I think one of the reasons was also being able to tap into that first party data.
Great example. Thank you. Are you comfortable with, and do you think other SEOs should be comfortable with, sharing first party data with AI?
Oh, that good question. I would be careful about that. Definitely understand what is your company's stance on using AI tools in general, and then decide whether or not it is acceptable. So I would go with that. Decide like based on what is the AI policy at your company.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest in 2025?
So I think what we should really kind of stop doing as an industry is kind of focusing on like cookie cutter SEO. You don't want to just look at the search results, for example, and see like, oh, competitor A, B, and C is doing this, so I have to do it this way. Instead, really think about what is the sort of hypotheses that you have for like why this might be doing well, and maybe is there some other way to do it? And then again, you want to test that out through A/B testing, get your first party data, and then use that to make an informed decision on what you should do. So don't just follow what your competitors are doing. Really figure out what works best for you and your company.
Debbie Chu is SEO manager at Stripe, and you can find her over at debbieychu.com. Debbie, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.